I'm just gonna tackle the elephant in the room. The art of this chapter of Boku no Hero Academia was definitely unfinished. A lot of the panels throughout this chapter, around halfway, started to become very unfinished. There was some obvious signs earlier on in the chapter, but overall, it didn't become very apparent until you got later on into the chapter, and you started to see a lot of panels to where the lines didn't seem to be completely finished, or, it seemed more like a sketch than an actual drawing. And it was very obvious when you're reading this chapter that Horikoshi was not able to finish his chapter in time. And when I was first reading this chapter, I was alarmed. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, I woke up early this morning, I was reading the chapter, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this art? Because, like, I'm just reading, a normal chapter, I didn't really notice anything, and then all of a sudden when, Sir actually laughs, he's like this, you see just the art go down, I'm like, well, what the fuck is going on here? I thought I, saw something, going on with my eyes or whatever. I'm like, am I seeing things? And then I continued on with the chapter, and then there was a lot of panels throughout the chapter that obviously shown that they were unfinished, like certain panels here and there throughout the chapter. Not every single one, but a lot of them after that started to show signs that they didn't get finished when they were finally, given to Weekly Shonen Jump. And I'm just scratching the side of my head like, what happened? Like, what's going on here? And from what I found out, Black Clover as well had a very similar issue as well. It had panels that were unfinished. So it wasn't just around Boku no Hero Academia and Horikoshi showing signs that he didn't get to finish the chapter. It was also happening with Black Clover as well. There was a lot of panels in Black Clover's latest chapter that came out today that also had panels unfinished. So it wasn't just related to Boku no Hero Academia. It was from two different manga in the same magazine. And so when I saw this, I'm like, something's happening here. Something very bad is happening here. Like, from what I'm assuming is that something's going on with the magazine, because something had to happen to where they had to ship out the chapters probably earlier than expected, like a deadline hit out of nowhere, and that's what caused Horikoshi and then the mangaka of Black Clover to have unfinished art in their chapters, which could easily be fixed when, the volume's released. But overall, though, when it comes to the weekly chapters, that is why the art is unfinished. So I'm just, thinking, like, what happened here? Why was the art unfinished, and what was going on with Weekly Shonen Jump, and why did, these two manga get affected? I don't read, Food Wars or Haikyuu, so I don't know if those two series had issues as well with its art, like unfinished panels or something, but we gotta remember that sometimes mangaka do make a bunch of chapters, and they probably, have them already pre-done the time they finally come around and they're sent into the magazine. So most likely, if there is other manga series that came out today that have no problems, it's probably because they were ahead of their actual normal schedule, and so they had probably a bunch of chapters backed up to where they could just give them the weekly Shonen Jump. So this would show that Black Clover and, Boku no Hero Academia, both the writers of these series were rather behind, or they only had one chapter. They were working with one chapter at a time. Regardless, though, a serious issue, because it lets us know that it wasn't just related to Boku no Hero Academia, it was also related to Black Clover as well, so something definitely happened. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and so, yeah. Anyways, though, let us talk about this chapter. So this chapter has a lot of details going on, and has an interesting direction it's taking, especially towards the end of the chapter with Overhaul. So before we get into Overhaul, let's just talk about the meaning of the Sir and Izuku fight, or having Sir accept Izuku and allowing Izuku to work underneath him. The message of this is very important. It's probably going to serve a big role in the future to kind of for Izuku's development, but also Sir's characterization and / development as well when it comes to him accepting Izuku for who he is. So throughout the entirety of this chapter, about half of the chapter actually, pretty much Izuku, he got his ass beat. Like, there's not much he really could do against someone that had that type of quirk ability that can actually predict the future, could see, a minute ahead, 3 minutes ahead, up to an hour ahead. There was just nothing Izuku could do to counter this man. Izuku tried all sorts of different things. He tried to sling a bunch of objects at Sir, because even if he could see, Izuku, he can't see the objects flying in towards him. However, since, Sir can see Izuku at all points in time, he'll still know where Izuku is going to pop up at a given moment. So he can automatically just stop him right then and there, even if he knows, like, where he's coming from, and he doesn't know where the objects are flying at him, he'll still know where Izuku pops up at, so he can stop him before everything is said and done. So, it just goes to show you that Sir is a type of fighter that if he can actually meet all the requirements to his quirk ability, it's going to be fucking annoying to deal with this man. Like, it's going to be extremely annoying to probably fight this man because of all the requirements once he gets them onto you. You're not going to be able to do anything against this man. He'll probably be able to just wipe you out or do whatever he wants, unless you have a crazy-ass quirk ability that allows you to fucking, like, just do a massive AoE attack or something. Most likely, that's the only way probably to counter Sir, because as we know, when it comes to all quirk abilities, there is weaknesses. Even though they seem very powerful or OP, there is crucial flaws with a lot of quirk abilities. I mean, even the strongest quirk abilities have their flaws. I mean, let's look at, Izuku's quirk ability. Breaks his fucking bones. Let's look at, Togata, how he has to, like, lose all senses of himself. He doesn't even know where he's at or whatever, and he could just fall through the ground. Just some scary stuff with some of these quirk abilities. So, just because Sir Nighteye looks completely OP, like he can do anything, it doesn't mean he is OP, because we have found out time and time again, Boku no Hero Academia, the strong quirks doesn't mean that they're going to be completely strong, or always going to be strong against every single opponent, because there's a lot of flaws or weaknesses to them. So, besides that, let's just talk about how Sir beat the shit out of Izuku, like he just won this match, and Izuku couldn't really stand up to him at all. Izuku, while he was fighting Sir, he was keeping aware of his surroundings. He was making sure he didn't harm anything of All Might, the merchandise. And you remember what I said last week? I said that one of the probably key ways of Izuku, seeking victory against Sir might be because of the merchandise. Well, I was half right, but half wrong as well. I figured Izuku was going to grab the merchandise, all, the collectibles of All Might, and start slinging them around and shit and just pissing off Sir, but that would make Sir, lose the stamp, and that's how, Izuku would have won. But that is not exactly what happened, which I just want to say, I commend you, Horikoshi. I commend you for actually doing a different route. I didn't expect that type of route with, the merchandise, but wow. I mean, when I think about it, it makes sense of how the outcome of this was, because if we look at how Boku no Hero Academia has been, and we also know that when it means to be a hero, you need to be aware of your surroundings and where, civilians are at and all that, it makes sense why this is such a good move for Horikoshi to use, especially with the merchandise, and why Nighteye laughed and chuckled, because it actually has a lot of meaning to how you would react in a real situation. You keep aware of your surroundings, you try not to harm people that are around you while you're going crazy and beating the shit out of a villain. You'll be able to be aware of what is around you at all times, which is what Izuku was doing. He was staying aware of all the merchandise around him, all this All Might stuff, to where he didn't want to damage it while he was flying around the room trying to get the stamp from Nighteye. So that's why Nighteye was rather impressed, because Izuku was able to understand the situation. Like, if this was, like, real training, let's just say this was a real event against a villain, okay? Let's just say Nighteye was a villain, and Izuku was a hero standing up to him. What Izuku did was what a hero should do. Be aware of their surroundings. They can't just go crazy, just start bashing the shit out of everything, because if they do, they're gonna hurt someone. They're gonna kill someone. And Izuku being able to keep track of everything around him while he's going that fast, trying to still focus on the person before him and, analyze him, it shows you tremendous skill that Izuku has. However, regardless of this, though, Sir has not accepted Izuku. He even states in this chapter he does not accept him, and he will go against the words of the person he admires, All Might, just to make a point, to make the best possible hero. And I like Sir's standpoint as a character. I loved what he's doing. I love his characterization. I've loved him since last chapter, and I'm loving him in this chapter. And I do love the message of why he's allowing Izuku to work underneath him. So, let's talk about this. I don't know how many understood that, section of this chapter, but let's discuss it. So, as we know, Sir stated in this chapter he was going to allow Izuku to be a part of, his entire team, no matter what. Even if he didn't, get the stamp from or whatever, he already was fully aware that he was just going to allow Izuku to be employed by him. He was fine with that. And the reason for this is because he wanted to prove a point to Izuku. And you're probably thinking, like, what's he want to prove? And we do know about, Izuku's ability, one for all, how it could transfer to other people, and we do know that Sir knows about this as well, because he thought that, Togata should have gotten the ability instead of Izuku. And because of this, I feel like the goal of Sir is to make it to where Izuku feels like so much shit, like he's not worthy of being a hero or carrying the mantle of All Might, that he will pass the quirk ability over to Togata, someone that actually deserves it. I feel like that's kind of the message that Sir is just wanting to convey to Izuku. Like, the reason why I'm employing you is for you'll give up, and you'll give this ability over to someone that is worthy of it. And that's what he's trying to prove to Izuku, and why he was going to employ him no matter what, even if he got his ass beat and couldn't do anything. He was going to say, you're hired, just for he can make a point to Izuku that he's just not worthy of a hero and that quirk ability at all. So really cool stuff. I really like Sir's characterization and also development he has gotten so far, because it's definitely interesting, and it definitely mixes up what we've seen so far from Boku no Hero Academia, and how this teacher, or this person, Sir, is not willing to actually just, help you out, or, just, lend a helping hand. He's like, you know what, my job here is to make you feel like absolute shit, and make sure you give up for someone else can get your talents. I really love the role of Sir's character in this manga right now, after what I've seen from the last chapter in this chapter. So with that being said, let's talk about the situation with Overhaul. So Overhaul is a villain. We know he is a villain. We know this man has an insane quirk ability. I've talked about him a couple of chapters ago. He has a very powerful and OP ability, and he has a very interesting personality. We've seen him kill someone. Us, the viewer, us, the reader of the manga, we have seen him kill a person. However, the actual firm that Izuku is a part of, and Sir, they don't know. They don't know if Overhaul is a good guy or a bad guy. We know he is. However, Izuku and all of them, they don't really know. They just, suspect Overhaul of being a villain or doing some evil deeds, but they can't really say he is evil, which this is a route I did not expect, Overhaul's character to take, alongside of how Izuku is going to be having to bring this man in, or finding out evidence that this man is actually an evil dude. It really mixes up the formula of what we've seen so far from the series, because this is something different that we have never seen Izuku have to tackle before. Normally, when he, comes up against, like, a villain or someone that's evil, he could straight up probably fight right then and there if he wanted to. However, this time, he can't. Even if he has suspicion and he does know that he might be a villain or whatever, he can't act on it unless he has evidence. He can't just go striking someone that right now is just a regular civilian unless he has evidence. So this is a time to when Izuku can't do shit. No matter what, this man can say all the heinous shit he wants to do, or what he wants to say to Izuku, and Izuku can't really do anything until he has concrete evidence of him doing something that is just completely evil, or a part of an evil organization. And so, with this man standing right in front of Izuku, this is actually fucking scary, because right now, Izuku can't do anything. Like, he cannot do anything. Even if he sees this girl that's running away from Overhaul, he cannot necessarily stop him from taking that girl if he's like, oh, hey, she's my sister-in-law, she's just running away or being a brat. Izuku can't really stop that at all. I mean, if it seems like everything is nice and fine, because right now he may be under suspicion, and he's, suspected of being a villain, but he is not a villain yet. So, I like the direction of this. I really love what Horikoshi is doing with Overhaul's character, because we know how deadly this man is. This man could just completely disintegrate you, like just blow you up into little bits and pieces all over the place. We have seen it happen already a couple of chapters ago. So if this man can do something like that, and he's just roaming the streets and all that, and he's not even, suspected of being a villain completely, that is scary. That is really, really scary, because this man could get away with a lot of different shit until he is actually caught. And I can't wait to see how Izuku's going to have to go up against this man, and what type of interaction he's going to have with this dude in the next chapter, because right now, this girl seems to be in danger that was running away, and we don't know necessarily why he was actually chasing this girl or whatever. We don't know if it's because he's related to her, or if it's other mission he's trying to accomplish or whatever, but right now he's got to keep his cool, because if he says anything, if Overhaul says anything, Izuku automatically is going to realize he's a villain, or vice versa. I mean, if Izuku does anything against this man, that man has all rights to complain to the heroes and stuff that he's doing some, evil and shady shit, stopping him from doing his own civil rights, for instance, just wandering the street or whatever, because right now, Overhaul is a good man. He's not a bad dude, according to society, even though we know, because we've seen behind the scenes, to society standards, he seems like a good guy. So if Izuku steps in to try to do anything, it's like he is pushing the bounds of his authority, and he should, step the fuck back. So yeah, Horikoshi, I like what you're doing with Overhaul. Can't wait to see what you're going to do with him next. And overall, great chapter. Besides the art issue, which I don't think is Horikoshi's fault, I really don't, it was still a very good chapter. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You'll have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.